There are so many people available to you who can be resources to you.
It's a much larger group, so you get a lot more information.
As a voluntary, not-for-profit initiative.
Your needs and meet them by finding the right place and the right environment.
Manage the Building Brand Australia program that enhances people's awareness of contemporary Australian skills and capability. So they basically let you know what Australian people can do and enhance Australia's global reputation. Now, Mr. Michael Carter will be on in a moment, but first I believe there's a video clip for you to have a look at.
Good afternoon, and that was Future Unlimited. And when I think about Sri Lanka, I think of Sri Lanka as a Future Unlimited, and certainly one of Sri Lanka's greatest assets, its youth. You're very much in control of your future, which is unlimited. So I was certainly encouraged by Charitha's presentation just before mine. I think the passion, the enthusiasm, the insights that he shared about his education experiences, and I think importantly, delivering the message that it really comes back to you making that final choice. So whilst I'm going to talk to you for about the next 10 or 15 minutes about why you may want to think about Australia to pursue your studies. At the end of the day, you've got to make the choice. And you've got to make your choice for the right reasons. And you've got to think about those reasons in terms of where you want it to position you in the future. When I look back to my sort of, educational background and a lot of what Teresa was talking about, I was able to readily resonate to as well. I'm from Perth in Western Australia. I remember when I first went into university, I went to a university called Murdoch University, and I started a Bachelor of Arts program. And I think after about 12 months, for me the penny dropped. I don't know whether it was because I was probably getting more marks studying Tavern 101 or Cricket 202, or the fact that my father was sort of whispering into my ear and saying, it's probably about time that you took your studies seriously, that I realised that I was actually in the wrong stream. And that for me was a wake-up call. I then moved across to Curtin University and completed my Bachelor of Business in Marketing. So, it's probably a road you may go on as well, but at the end of the day, it really comes down to you making that final choice. It comes down to you to do as much research, if you like, and homework as you can. And I think to certainly, cross-reference against a number of sources to ensure that you really do get the best out of, your particular journey that you'll embark upon, that will certainly provide you, to use that cliche, that international passport to a whole range of careers. And so the Future Unlimited DVD that we showed you tries to get those messages across. It talks about the Australian education system, providing you a gateway to all sorts of opportunities. And certainly for the 470 odd foreign students that are studying in Australia, they've made that choice, perhaps for those similar sort of reasons. Let me start off firstly by saying that, when I arrived this morning from Chennai, and that's where I'm based, I'm always constantly amazed and intoxicated, if you like, just by the real can-do attitude that I seem to pick up every time I come to Sri Lanka. And I think it's certainly something, whether it's in the minds of Sri Lanka's youth, the business community, there is this real can-do approach to wanting to forge ahead. And that probably doesn't surprise me when one looks at, Sri Lanka's economic figures, and we can read about growth rates in excess of 6%, which these days is pretty spectacular. And how areas in agriculture, industry, and of course in services, Sri Lanka is certainly moving ahead. I'm not surprised that certainly the country is positioning itself as being a knowledge hub, along with being a marine hub, along with being a commerce hub and an IT hub. And that makes a lot of sense, because obviously by positioning this country as a knowledge hub, we provide a tremendous opportunity for business to forge, for Sri Lanka to certainly reach its tentacles into many burgeoning areas. And you guys play a big part of that. You may not realise it now, but you certainly will. So, that first sort of journey, that first sort of step in deciding what am I going to study, and, which university, and do I go to Australia, do I go to Canada, and so on and so forth. That's going to be a decision that, as I said earlier, you're going to have to make, but looking at all sorts of sources, and obviously picking that university, that particular course, for the right reasons, not for the wrong reasons. I'd just like to tell you a little bit about that Sri Lankan Australian experience in education. Today there is something like 5,500 Sri Lankans students in Australia having a rewarding educational experience, and of course over time many of the graduates that have been studying in Australia have certainly left their mark and have played a very important role, I think, in many areas. One in terms of enriching Australian society, another in terms of coming back to Sri Lanka and imparting those international experiences. And I think that there's a tremendous amount of effort in strengthening, if you like, providing a convergence that exists between our two countries, both at a government-to-government level, both at a trade and investment level. and certainly at a people-to-people level. And I think that the forges, the bonds that are created between our two countries in education really does set the sort of template for taking these people-to-people relationships forward. Is that relevant to you today? I'm just giving you that context. If we talk about the Australian education system, we've only got 39 universities, but let me tell you folks, those universities are certainly punching well above their weight. And I'll just give you a couple of statistics just to help get your mind around that. According to the 2012 academic ranking of world universities, 12% of our universities are ranked in the top 100 universities of the world. A further 47% of our universities are in the top 500 universities of the world. And that's a higher proportion than those universities from other developing countries. Okay, if I look at another source, which is the QS World University Rankings, 10% of Australian universities are ranked in the top 50, 17% in the top 100, and 60% in the top 500. Okay, they're numbers, and I can play with numbers, but I think one thing's pretty clear here, that whilst we do have a small number of universities, they certainly do seem to be punching well above their weight. You might say, well, what's underpinning that? Well, I think there are a number of things. I think first and foremost, very much what underpins our Australian universities, and all of them, bar one, are all government-owned, is the focus on innovation and research and development. We've got a small country of people, probably similar population to Sri Lanka, 21, 22 million people, and yet we have 15 Nobel laureates that have passed through. And I think that demonstrates the particular focus that many of our universities have undertaken in research and development. I think we probably may take for granted a number of innovations that we live with every day, which in fact came from Australia. Let's think about Wi-Fi, Google Maps, the bionic ear, the electric drill, and even the dual flush toilet. These are all Australian innovations. And so I think, a lot of what is driving our universities to reach out to the international community and position themselves as a choice for both undergraduate and postgraduate students is that they've got this particularly strong pedigree in research and development. And that research and development can and does lead, obviously, to commercial deliverables. The Australian government recognises that, and obviously that's why, as earlier I guess explained to you, the Australian Trade Commission, which of course is the trade investment arm of the Australian government, is very much underpinned by three pillars, and one of them is education. That's how important we place on the educational linkages between our two universities, or should we say Australian universities and foreign universities. There have been a number of welcoming changes within our system. Visas for students, they're easier to get. We've got streamlined visa processes in place. There are a number of attractive options available for postgraduate students, which may not interest right now, but maybe don't attract well, where you can actually stay back and work for a period of time, whether you're doing a doctorate, whether you're doing a PhD and so forth. And we've got a number of very informative websites, which I'm going to call out to you now. You might like to take a note. If you were to Google My University, one word, .gov.au, that's the first one. And the second website, which you saw in that clip, studyingaustralia.gov.au, it's a starting point for you. Okay, we'll give you a snapshot of the Australian universities, snapshot of the courses, some testimonials, comments if you like, from Sri Lankan alumni. And I'm not saying that's a be all and end all, but it'll give you certainly an insight into a bit about the Australian education experience. Because education isn't just about getting that qualification, it's about having the good quality of life, having experiences, appreciating the culture, and bringing that back. And that's certainly something that I've found when I've spoken to Sri Lankan students in Australia, when I've spoken to alumni, that it's a complete package. Just like probably My friend earlier was talking about his experiences in the States. It was study, and it was also having a good time and forging friendships and relationships. And that's something that Australia has been undergoing with Sri Lanka since Sri Lanka's independence, and certainly since the days of the Colombo Plan in the 1960s, when back then, you know, both governments had the foresight to understand the importance of educational linkages and exchanges. So on that note, because I think I'm getting to wind up very soon, I'd like to thank you for your time. I'd like to certainly encourage you to find out more about the Australian education experience. Those websites are there, but also to David, I hope I don't embarrass you if you wouldn't mind just standing up. And David Samuel, incidentally, works for the Australian Trade Commission at the Australian High Commission. Please come and see us. You don't just come to the High Commission to get your visa, okay, or your passport. You can come and see David. David heads up what we're doing in education. We've got some exciting things coming up later in the financial year. David, in fact, is pulling together a program where we'll be having a number of Australian universities that will be coming into Colombo, and that date again, David, is in February. Okay, so that's something that we'll be telling you about to provide you yet another opportunity to get more information about the prospects of studying in Australia. So thank you very much for your time today. I must say, if I was trying to do this back in Australia with the beach just down the road, I think I'd be pretty hard pressed on a Sunday to have everybody here. So you guys are really committed to study, to be here on a Sunday afternoon. So thanks for your time, and we look forward to